we should have full representation in accounting, but there's also a more practical piece to this. Having less diversity, and lots of research has kind of shown that the less diverse teams that you have, you often get into a sphere of groupthink, and that doesn't serve the purpose of the tasks at hand.
You can't adopt tech, sign in, and everything's going to change. It takes work. You have to put some thought into it. You're not going to get magic out of the box. And once they realize that, I think then we can start to actually make change.
The art of the impossible time is the number one thing that I think all of us crave more of. We wish we had more of it, but the problem is, as soon as you've spent it, you'll never get it back.
Welcome to the Accounting Influencers podcast with me, Rob Brown, here in the UK. We have an international panel and we are continuing with a series of debates on the future of accounting. We've got a very diverse bunch of people who care about the profession and have served the profession in many different aspects. There's a lot going on right now. So we're bringing in the experts, the leaders, the influencers whose opinions count and who have the ear of accountants and are actually in the accounting game themselves. The guests will introduce themselves in just a moment and we'll work through a few juicy questions to give you an overview of some of the problems and challenges, but also some of the opportunities and perhaps some of the solutions. They'll share with you things like what they would wish to happen if they had a magic wand. They'll maybe give you some predictions of what they are absolutely sure is coming up, and they'll help you make sense of what is happening right now in the colorful, wonderful world we call accounting. So without further ado, Anton, I'm going to start with you. A quick introduction and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. It's a pleasure, as always, to be here. So my name's Dr. Anton Lewis. I'm an associate professor of accounting at Governors State University here, just in the outskirts of Chicago, where, quite frankly, it's colder than it should be. As I say, I teach basic financial and managerial accounting, and as well as intermediate level accounting and some master's level accounting here. In terms of research, I look at the topic of accounting and race and aspects of DEI, both in the United Kingdom and now more in the United States.
Thank you very much. Kelly Mann, wonderful to have you with us. A quick introduction from you.
Thank you. I'm Kelly Mann, CEO and co-founder of Audit Miner. It's a technology to streamline 401k audits, which are US-based audits. My background is an auditor. I was an auditor for about 15 years before I identified a gap in the marketplace for this type of technology. I Googled how to start a software company and just put one foot in front of the other. And now I have Audit Miner, which sells to CPA firms around the US.
Wonderful. Sabby Gill, you've been on the show before and you've served in a few aspects of the accounting profession. Lovely to have you with us.
Great. Thanks, Robin. It's great to be with such an illustrious panel. Great for putting this together. I'm Sabby Gill. I'm the chief executive of Dex. Dex is a bookkeeping automation software package, pretty much global in nature, headquartered here in the UK with offices in Canada, France, Australia, New Zealand, operations also in South Africa, as well as Asia. For me, the changes that are sort of going on, and it's great having this panel, is so important to understand just the amount of change that's going on in this particular industry. So I'm looking forward to the discussion, Rob.
Terrific. And Eriona, you very patiently taught me how to pronounce Eriona Bajrakurtaj. So thank you for that. It's lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. That wasn't too bad. It was closer than last time.
Thank you.
My name is Eriona Bajrakurtaj. I'm the managing director of Majors Accounts, which is a small family-based practice based in London, UK. I actually transformed and am now running this now digital accountancy firm. We have a team of 25 currently with a client base of just under 1,000 clients. I'm also a seasoned international speaker and vice chair of the ACCA UK Practitioners Network panel. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion today.
We're going to right some wrongs and set the record straight on a number of things. So let's kick off with really a statement of where we are right now. And Kelly, I'll start with you on this one and unleash you on, just give us a sense of, with all the change that's going on, how equipped do you feel the accounting profession is to handle everything coming at them?
So my high level answer is moderately equipped because I'm kind of in the middle. I mean, to me, it's a generational question. So I believe, and this might rub people the wrong way, but the older two generations are not equipped for this. And this is generally speaking, this is not everybody, right? But from what I see, they're kind of set in their ways a little bit and they're slower to adopt and they're less agile. The younger two generations, however, I think are very equipped. They grew up with technology. They know how to use it. You put something in front of it and they can get it like that. They also like to think strategically and creatively. And so I think that they're in a different space and they are more ready for the changes that are going to be coming down the pipeline.
Eriona, you're hiring people from all generations, I'm sure. So you're well positioned to say how the profession is equipped to deal with everything coming at them.
Yeah, I don't think in general, so we should be well equipped because we have a lot of technology to hand to really help us do what we need to do a lot better. Whether we are ready for it, whether we are using it correctly, whether we understand it fully is a different matter. So in general, yes, maybe the younger generation understand technology better. However, when they come out of, their studies, then they have no clue about what the market looks like now that we have technology. They may have some knowledge of the basics that have been around for 20, 30, 40 years, but they have no clue about any of the other softwares and the integrations required and, more the business commercial side or aspect of how we do our jobs nowadays. We don't literally sit there and type things into a computer anymore. Those days are gone. We are focusing more on what we studied to do, which was analysis. However, when they come out of education, everything is brand new to them. They've never heard of this. They've never seen it before. So it's kind of like, we're starting from scratch. Yeah, they may have the concepts, but they're just not ready for the world of work. That's what I've seen from, the people that we're hiring.
And we have had a number of themes coming out on these panels that we've done about the CPA and accounting qualifications. Are they fit for purpose? The governing bodies, are they producing accountants that are equipped to deal with the modern world? We may touch on that. And we're going to come to some of the threats and challenges that are impacting accounting shortly, but we're just getting this opening remarks, if you like. Anton, where do you feel the profession is at right now to deal with what's on the horizon?
Well, I really do agree with kind of what Kelly and Eriona have said here. And I apologize if I've kind of butchered your name a bit there, but you can always feel free to correct me. In that there is an issue of technology and making sure that we as accounting educators can, facilitate technology into our courses and the preparation that we give our accounting students. And also to be able to integrate a closer relationship between accounting academe and industry. I think those have been long-standing problems for quite some time. But there's a third issue here as well that's worth pointing out is, and I think in a sense, Kelly touched upon this, there is a genuine generational disconnect between, let's say, Generation Z and many Xers and Boomers that really are at the top of the profession. And it's a problematic because they in some ways represent an overarching inflexibility to the profession. And therefore, you've got this contestation of youthful, digitally savvy younger generations who are finding themselves being stymied in a rapidly changing workplace. And if we're talking about being equipped, it's not just our coming accounting colleagues coming up from universities and other places, are they equipped? Are accounting firms right now equipped and ready to accept these generations, these and others, as units of change?
Yeah. Sabby, we talk about being future ready, and Anton suggested we need to be future ready right now. We've got no time to get future ready. We've got to be handling change now. What's your take on where we're at?
Yeah, no, look, I can sort of agree more than anybody else has already said. The rate of change, right, from a technology perspective is probably greater now than it's ever been historically, and it's only going to get faster. So technology is going to be the area that everybody has to keep up with. You know, the one area that I haven't really seen too many people talk about is compliance and regulation, right? Because a lot of that is what causes the accounting profession, I would say, the inability to be efficient and effective in the roles that they play, right? Because technology will move as quickly and as fast as possible. But the problem is, you know, as a software vendor and having been in the software industry for over 35 years, the biggest change always is the regulatory and the compliance changes, because that's where you're constantly having to maintain and update rules, regs, VAT, tax, MTD. Look at all of those things that people, you know, now there's AML and there's all of these different legislation changes. It's almost like, you know, when does an accountant have the ability and the time to be an accountant, as opposed to all of the other things that they have to take into account, right? And technology sort of helps in that way, but, you know, we could provide so much more capability and adherence if they could just reduce the amount of times and also just keep to the deadlines that they actually say they're going to keep to. Too many things slip down the line too many times.
Well, you've teed that up nicely, because I want to ask you all what you feel is the single biggest threat which might hold us back or negatively impact what we're trying to do here. I've heard technology described on these panels as the accountant's best friend and worst enemy. So that's out there. I've heard a lot about the regulation and how fast it changes and how complex it is, and how accountants don't often have the chance to bed in the previous changes before they've got further changes. And this speaks to a lot to burnout and overwhelm and overload. So all of this is in the mix. Eriona, let's start with you on this one. If you could pick out one challenge, one threat that's going to eat the accountant's lunch or really blindside them or hold them back, what would you point to?
Well, compliance is a whole another issue. That's a long conversation, but I think the main one right now is technology. I know everyone talks about it, but I think only around 5 to 10% of the market are adopting technology, actually adopting it, not a case of buying a license and saying, I've got this license, and then not using it, but actually understanding what does that technology do. It's not meant to be there to replace us, because a lot of people think that it is. It's not. It's there to complement what we do, so we can do a better job, provide a better service. And actually, with the technology, you will be able to be closer with your client, not put it in the middle of you so you don't have that access to them anymore. And that's what we've done with our firm, right? Now I have time to speak to clients, whereas before I was too busy punching in data to the system just to give them a quick set of accounts at the end of the year with the tax figure, and that was it. But all the technology I've adopted is to change that quality of service. But how many firms are not adopting it because they're scared of it and they don't actually understand what it does? And, you know, technology is so important in all aspects of our lives, not just in our kind of industry. So as the new generations come up and they're going to be business owners, they're used to technology in all aspects. So they're going to want something that's quick, that they need to have access to their accountant as and when they need it. And if you don't have that technology in place, you're not going to be able to keep up. Physically, you don't have the time, you don't have the hours in the day to be able to answer everybody. So I think the not understanding part of it is what will cause and what will be a threat to so many firms going forward.
Yeah, Anton, you and I would love to sit on the sidelines and see Sabby, Eriona, and Kelly debate the tech thing and why tech adoption is so slow, and why accountants are not great strategic buyers of technology, and what the tech vendors could do better to serve accountants in putting the tech in front of them. All of these things are in play. Sabby, let's bring you up next on this one. You'd obviously agree with Eriona on the tech, but is there anything else, or do you want to embellish that?
Yeah, look, it's absolutely right that technology, if you don't, I believe it could be a competitive opportunity, right, as well as a threat, because those organizations that take on and advance their adoption of technology, you probably find that they grow faster, they're able to be more efficient, probably charge more because they're able to take on more clients. They're probably more efficient in relation to the number of employees and those sort of things, right? So there's huge opportunity for growth. But I think the most important thing is it's the time element, I would say, is more important than anything else. Because if you're more efficient and effective in the way that you actually bring on and adopt technology, what do you do with that extra time that now all of a sudden you've been given back, right? The art of the impossible time is the number one thing that I think all of us crave more of. We wish we had more of it, but the problem is, as soon as you've spent it, you'll never get it back. So once you do get it back, because you've been now able to find an extra 2 or 3 hours a day, a whole day a week, do you have the opportunity to grow your business? Do you spend more time with family? Do you find work-life balance? There are so many opportunities for individuals. Going back to Rob, you mentioned burnout, right? It is the one potential opportunity that technology will actually help you remove some of those mundane activities, tasks that allow you to be able to then actually take that time and opportunity to then, instead of being a data processor, you go back to what Eriona had sort of mentioned, you become sort of a data analyzer, right? What can I now tell you about all of the information that I've now gathered about your business, and how do I add value? And for that value, I should be able to potentially charge a bigger premium than I would normally have done. But technology is the foundation. And if you don't apply technology, other people will do, right? You'll become the laggard as other people sort of move past you.
Kelly, I'm just smiling as Sabby's talking about we brought in dishwashers, and we brought in automatic washing machines, and we brought in all of these gadgets and technology, which is supposed to free up so much time for us, and yet we seem busier than ever. So if you had to identify one threat, Kelly, that's going to send us off the rails, what might it be?
I think it's that accountants need to stop considering themselves generalists and start being more specialists. Historically, everybody made decisions off of financial statements or tax returns. That's not the case anymore. There's so much underlying data, and those are where they're making the decisions off of. And so if you are a generalist, you can absolutely not stay up to date with regulations. You cannot understand all of the data and dig into there. And so I think we need to start specializing in, maybe it's a division of accounting, maybe it's a certain niche or market. But the more you specialize, the more you're going to be able to understand that technology, adopt the technology, get insights into the data in order to help make those decisions. So that's where I think it is. We have to stop being generalists and start being specialists.
Anton, are you going to come from the people side of this and talent? Because we've not hit that one yet.
It's almost like you're in my brain. I'm sorry for what you found there, Rob. Yes, so yeah, I'm gonna take a slightly different approach. Look, and again, this question of threat, Rob, I think is region specific. So certainly here in the United States, and I don't know if Kelly agrees, we are actually in a crisis. We are running out of accountants, right? There's no two ways around it. And that's a problem. Because although we're talking about technology, and we've already highlighted the importance of applying technology, the importance of interpreting that technology, somebody's got to be there to do that very thing I've just said. And, I can see this. I've seen this in my own classroom over the last few years in 2 different institutions, where our numbers of accounting in the US have dwindled to a trickle. I deal with enough US accounting academics to know that when our accounting classrooms are a trickle, there just won't be the pool for accounting firms, large or small, to be able to draw from. And we're seeing this right now. The war for talent in the US is extreme, to the point where certain accountants who have retired are being asked to come back and actually do quite large audits. We're finding younger and younger audit seniors kind of doing audits for companies that maybe they don't have enough experience for. And also we're finding lots of audit functions being outsourced or others being brought in from other places, think India and China. And this really goes to show that there is a problem here. And part of this issue, okay, is about gatekeeping. Right, within the US context, you've got to have a certain number of accounting hours in an accounting program before you can sit CPA licensure across many states. And, much of accounting over many, many years has made sure that the accounting process, the qualification process in the US is quite difficult. And this kind of gatekeeping has made the profession, it's kind of put it up there. But the gatekeeping is almost useless if you've got nobody at the gate, right? And that's what we've kind of found here. And along with this, again, with the area of study that I'm engaged in, we've also found, a precipitous decline in accountants of color, and that is quite meaningful. We've had AICPA reports showing that we've got dwindling numbers. And why does that matter? I think it's the right thing to do. We should have full representation in accounting, but there's also a more practical piece to this. Having less diversity, and lots of research has kind of shown that the less diverse teams that you have, you often get into a sphere of groupthink, and that doesn't serve the purpose of the tasks at hand. And secondly, as well, the more diverse groups that you actually have, the greater opportunity you have for out-of-the-box thinking. And, I know I've ranted on my soapbox a bit here, but I will give you a particular example, and I hope I've got the Big Four company correct here. I think it's EY, and they have they've kind of created a accounting consultancy group, which is predominantly neurodiverse. Think people who are on the spectrum in terms of autism, those who have ADHD, those who may be dyslexic. And what they're finding is their viewpoints in the right conditions, in the right settings, are actually really quite beneficial to many accounting tasks that require quite innovative solutions. So if we're talking about threats, my point would be, are we doing enough to open the gates to make sure accounting is attractive back to those Gen Zs? And are those Gen Z accountants diverse enough for the profession's needs in the future?
Sure.
Can I quickly just add something onto that?
Yes, Eriona, yeah.
With the gatekeeping, just to give you an idea, in the UK, doctors get their license after they finished university and their kind of training. They need 2 years to get their license. Accountants, to get a practicing license, need 3 years. And when you consider the magnitude of the professions, it doesn't make sense, right? And anyone coming into the profession kind of sees that and thinks, after I do all my exams, I still need another 3 years afterwards to be able to practice on my own. That kind of helps to put them off, I guess.
Well, that's a really good point. One of the debates I've had on these panels is, who is responsible for branding the profession? Who is responsible for ensuring that we've got enough talent coming through? And accounting as a career choice is attractive to not just the younger generation coming in, but the older generation to stay in, because we know they're coming out of accounting and going into tech and industry and all kinds of other things. So yeah, there is certainly a problem with the brand of the profession. And we've had heads of governing bodies and societies on to admit that that is actually the case. I'm going to give you an opportunity now, and Sabby, I'll start with you on this, about any particular faulty thinking, fake news, long-standing myths that we've held on to for too long that are perhaps holding us back. We've certainly looked at the threats, the big threats, but is it some mindset things, some attitudes, some complacency? What one thing would you point to that perhaps needs righting?
Yeah, look, just to reinforce what Eriona has said, right? How do you make accounting a profession that people at school would want to say, that's what I want to be, right? How do you make it in such a way, bringing it across that, it's not the stress at levels that some people actually, right, have always considered, right? You don't burn out, you don't have this, you can find a really good work-life balance, you can run your own practice, you can do all of those things. I don't think there's enough success stories. There's not enough poster child type organizations that are really put out there as saying, this is you can turn it into a really good lifestyle type business and an individual can really succeed. So to me, that's one area. I think the other piece is, as we concentrate on talking about technology, is just the threat of technology, right? We talk about AI, we talk about taking jobs away, those sort of things. it's going to be hard to ask somebody to go into an industry where potentially technology is going to remove that completely. So it's like, do I put all my faith into doing all these years of qualifications, and then all of a sudden everything's fully automated? Then what value do I bring? So we've got to find a way of really getting all these myths on the table and debunking them as quickly and as fast as possible, but give really good success stories of where people have been able to actually come out the other side.
That's a fair point. It's a common theme that the best advocates for a career in accounting are the practitioners themselves.
Yep.
But they don't tell the stories. They're doing remarkable things and they're making a difference and impacting lives, but they don't talk about it. There's something called the proximity bias I've spoken about, where we get so close to what we do, we don't see it as remarkable. In fact, we think that it's quite mundane. I'm not a qualified accountant, but I'm a former high school math teacher. And so I've been in there in the classrooms with these young people, and you're telling them things they need to learn, like algebra and trigonometry. And they're saying, well, what relevance is that to real life? That's not really going to help me. And you really want to be teaching them financial wealth and management and balancing a budget and reading a credit card statement and all kinds of things like this. So that's me on my soapbox of faulty thinking. Anton, where would you go with this? What myths need busting or wrongs need righting?
You know, I kind of agree with what Sabby said there. You know, we really do have to take the bull by the horns with this, right? Many of the professions just simply do a better job of promoting their particular occupations as being interesting and exciting. What have we had over the last few years? We've had the accountant, Ben Affleck, 2016, accountant by day, bazooka toting hero by night, right? Okay, that's what we've had over the last few years. Whereas you can think of like Grey's Anatomy, for example, for medical.
There's a million medical dramas that do all the recruitment necessary for medical. Yes,
exactly. You know, we've had ones involving the law, right? We've got countless ones. We have absolutely the very notion of having a group of accountants having this really thrilling, interesting life in inner city London or New York. It almost gets laughed out of the room, right? And that's a problem because it's not interesting and it's not exciting. And, you know, that long-standing image of the dull bean counter is coming home to roost and really plays at real odds with what is happening now. And again, with my fellow panelists, if I begin to kind of examine what they've said, they're talking about the future. They're talking about really interesting, exciting things. They're talking about things that the profession has to change and needs forward-thinking, imaginative people. It's something I'll perhaps come into a bit later on the imagination point. But that should be intrinsically interesting to all sorts of young potential accountants. But we, as a profession, and our respective bodies are just not selling this, and it's becoming an issue.
Yeah. Eriona, what about you? What myths need busting?
I would say, not relating to those that are looking to get into the profession, but those that are already here and have been in the profession for many years, there's this myth that we should not speak to each other because we might divulge secrets. And we don't want to divulge our competitive advantage, and someone might take our clients, and this is just the way how I've been doing things, and I don't want them to know. It's so crazy. And that was me, right? When I started in practice, it was a family practice, so everything was like, let's make sure that everything we do is just here. We don't speak to any other practitioners because they are going to take what we're doing, replicate it, and all our clients are going to go. That is so, it's the worst thinking for not just the individual, but the accounting profession as a whole. Since going digital, I've started to network a lot more and get to know a lot more people. And when I first started networking, I was too scared to even, you know, give them that much information for the same reasons. And as you start to get more comfortable and speaking to them, then you create this network of people who, when you're stuck on something, they can help. We share knowledge, and this was like during COVID, it was a lifesaver because let's face it, no one understood the legislation that the government was putting out. We were hearing it as accountants for the first time, and our clients looked to us to explain what it meant, and we didn't, right? So I had this network of people that I could ask, what does this even mean? And we're trying to figure it out ourselves because we had no help from the government either. And we didn't steal each other's clients. we have all grown individually because we have our own service offering. But what we've done is we've been able to share best practice and provide a better service for each of our clients. And the profession right now, because there's not enough networking, I think it kind of stops it from moving forward. We're in this position where we're so siloed, we don't want to speak to anybody. And that is making some people want to leave because you don't want to be alone. You've got no one to talk to, especially if you're a practitioner and you're not in industry where you have a team around you that if one person doesn't know, you could go to somebody else. If you are alone, who do you go to? You know?
That's a really good point, Rob. Just want to add. So, last week I had the pleasure of being down in Australia for the Accounting Business Expo, right? And, met lots of accountants, over 38, 40 meetings over the week. But one of the things that really resonated down there is the power of the network, right? Just how many people actually get together, look at influencers, the community element around it. I've never seen a community spirit and element of people coming together more so in the accounting and bookkeeper space than any other industry. And I think that does play a really strong part when you've got these individuals and people listen to people, right? We all buy from each other. We buy from people. We trust people that we sort of associate with. And, for me, one of the things that I've noticed is the number of individuals who look to, I can do whatever I can in the software industry to try and sell people software. At the end of the day, they'll listen to another accountant or another bookkeeper on what do they do, what do they use, what experiences do they have with their tech stack, and almost look at them as the individuals that they'll trust more than a potentially software company or a software vendor or a salesperson that's sort of out there, because these guys understand more about what that person's trying to achieve than a salesperson, unless that person has come from industry, has come from practice, and then really understands the nature of the business. So I totally agree that the networking can be better, but Australia is a perfect example where, they almost self-regulate their own industry. I've seen situations where even if an accountant gives a bad piece of advice or has put up a post that probably isn't right, another accountant or another bookkeeper quite quickly corrects it and doesn't hold them out as, hey, you've got this wrong, shame on you. They sort of say, actually, that's not quite right. If there's something I can do to help you better understand that element of legislation or regulation, please reach out to me. And they're trying to help each other. Go back to what Eriona was saying, is really the important element around it.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons we started the Accounting Influencers Roundtable, to get people together. It's one of the reasons I do these panels, to bring people together in the conversation. We love that peer over the garden wall, that curiosity. What are you doing about that? Or as I describe it, looking into someone else's medicine cabinet or someone else's bait box to say, what are you using to catch that? And we do need to be sharing. We have quarterly speed networking events for the UK Europe region and the North America region, where we just bring people together on a Zoom call and have at it and debate things and share what they're doing without, to Eriona's point, sharing the crown jewels. But this is not a time to be isolated. Kelly, you've been really patient on this one. What faulty thinking would you like to correct?
I want to kind of pull the curtain back from AI. We use that a lot, and I don't think AI is here today. I think it's going to be coming, but it's not here today. I think about NFT, crypto, blockchain, metaverse. Like, all of these things were going to completely disrupt the accounting profession at one point, and they haven't. They all kind of went to the wayside. I think AI is a term similar to that. And then these firms think that the top 10, the top 20 firms are using this incredible AI to do all this work. They're not. These top firms have pretty archaic systems. They have a very hard time turning that ship. They are not agile. And so I think that these smaller firms or average size firms is so well positioned to just leap over them if they would just hear real stories about technology. It's not a magic bullet. You can't adopt tech, sign in, and everything's going to change. It takes work. You have to put some thought into it. You're not going to get magic out of the box. And once they realize that, I think then we can start to actually make change.
Yeah, that's a really fair comment. We are at the precipice in a lovely way, in that there is so many opportunities. But AI is, I agree, it's not the magic bullet. Some research by Zero recently pointed out that only 30% of American CPAs, and it's probably not much different in the UK and other countries, automate a bank feed. Just a third. Now, if they're not automating bank feeds, 2/3 are not, what are they doing to get real-time data? So, and they're not digitizing enough. They're not in the cloud enough. There's been slow adoption for that. So there's a bleeding edge of accountants that will be adopting AI and making a difference. And maybe the same with vendors, but even with vendors, tech providers, we see that they are claiming to put AI into their products, but it's not proper AI. It might be a little bit. So there's a lot at stake with AI. I'm going to give you all a magic wand. And Anton, I'll start with you on this one. If you had one wish that you could click your fingers and see change overnight, what would it be in this accounting game?
I guess if I had one wish, it would be something I call, it would be the fostering of what I think of as the accounting imagination, right? We fail badly at imagining what could be. And that, part of the accounting imagination would, again, go to Kelly's point that she's just made. It would be the full-throated adoption of technology in this way. And the accounting imagination would be greater networking and having less fear, as kind of Sabby has pointed out, as Eriona has pointed out as well. And just on that point, as a little segue back to Sabby's point about Australia, I just couldn't help but thinking that part of the pushback against ideas of networking are when we get PwC tax scandals, right? With them relating various Australian government tax advice and giving it to other clients. And that just erodes, if you like, one of the core features of what accountants need to be authentic, okay? It erodes the idea of trust. That's what is working against networking, right? But an accounting imagination for me would say, look, we've got to get beyond this. An accounting imagination for me would again, I apologize for repeating my point, but would seek the benefits from diversity in terms of DEI, not just racial diversity, not just making sure we've got gender diversity, not just neurodiversity, not just social class diversity, just making sure that we look forward to the future and fully embrace this in a fluid and flexible way.
Let's just stress we are not advocating imaginative accountants, because that has a different connotation, but we know exactly what you mean. We need to be thinking bigger, selling a better story, Anton, as Sabby hinted at. Kelly, what would you go with if the genie came out of the bottle?
I would love some lighter seasonality. I think that the seasonality in our industry is a root cause of a lot of issues.
You're talking about tax deadlines and busy seasons.
Busy seasons, yeah. And it's like there's no non-busy season anymore, because busy season runs into busy season runs into busy season because of all the different deadlines that we have. And so if I had a magic wand, I would figure out a way to smooth those deadlines and get rid of seasonality.
Yeah. That's a point, Sabby, isn't it? It points to the relentless nature of this business. There is always something to do. And if you do I sometimes ask people the question, if I give you an extra 5 hours in your day, what would you do with it? And most people end up saying, oh, I'd spend that time getting rid of all the things on my to-do list, which basically is more work, isn't it? So it's crazy. But genie out of the bottle, magic wand, Sabby, what one thing would you want to change overnight?
Look, I think to me, and we've sort of discussed it in multiple streams, is how do you just get more accountants and bookkeepers into the industry, right? That will then ultimately allow for people to, either grow their overall business, but also, because this isn't going away, right? Whether or not, how much technology and automation that you put in there, regulation, legislation, changes, compliance, tax rules, those sort of things, that's going to be there for a very long time. So how do you just find ways of bringing people more into the industry, making it more accessible, making individuals feel as if this is a long-term career choice? I started off in the accounting industry and then very much moved over to the software industry quite quickly as soon as I started learning technology. And now I've sort of done full circle and now doing software and accounting back into the overall industry. It's going to be those sort of things I would love for us to see.
Yeah. Somebody once said to me, if I could give you 1 million more followers on Twitter, or X as it is now, would you take it? And initially I said, yeah, that would be great. Then I said, what if all of those followers were not in the least bit interested in what you were doing, or were not the right kind of audience for you? And that made me think. So when you were articulating your wish, Sabby, if I could give you 1 million more accountants into the profession by tomorrow with a magic wand, the problems still remain. They're still coming into a profession where all of these problems we're talking about, the busy seasons, the lack of diversity, the overwhelm, the mental health and everything else, the compensation, the business structures and partnership models and everything, all of that's still there. So maybe another wish or a way of articulating that wish is to say, if we could eradicate this, this, and this, we would open the doors, make it much more attractive, and bring in the hundreds of thousands of accountants needed right here. Okay, so we are getting these wishes done. Eriona, what would be your magic wand? One wish, click of the fingers.
I would love for accountants to just look beyond the numbers, just put the numbers to the side and
Right.
have the confidence to speak to the business owner. Just understand how they work and then look at the numbers. Then you're able to see why that has happened. And then the right questions are asked. But right now, I think it's very much a case of this is what the figures are. See you later. And there is nothing else there's no other conversations that can come out of that. And our understanding is very limited. If you haven't asked the questions, how do you know your accounts are correct anyway? You know? So I'd love them to be able to look beyond those numbers.
The compliance issue has come up a lot in these debates, in that we know there's downward pressure and value of compliance. It is the accountant's bread and butter. However, this advisory space that they're moving into now. However, most business owners don't know what advisory is. They can't define it properly. They don't know how to ask for it. They don't know whether it's on the menu. Accountants don't know how to offer it, price it, deliver it, and all these kind of things with the advisory stuff. So, okay, we've got the wishes out of the way. I'm going to ask you to look forward now. We've navigated the current challenges and opportunities. So I'm going to ask you to get your crystal ball out. And Anton, let's start with you on, no, in fact, we're going to start with Sabby on this one. Two predictions if you got them, maybe even one.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it tight. One prediction for something you feel is definitely going to happen, Sabby, over the next few years in accounting. What have you got?
It's going to be those people that don't adopt technology will potentially become the laggards of the accounting industry, and they just won't be able to keep up, right? And potentially go out of business if they don't adopt technology.
That is the fight for relevance, the fight against extinction. What will happen to the accounting firms and the accountants that don't or won't change? I love that quote. If you think change is hard, try not changing and see what happens. So that's a good one. Kelly, what have you got? A surefire prediction you definitely think is going to happen?
So I'm going to focus where I know, which is auditing. And I think that the CISA auditors, so computer information systems auditors, are going to be the highest, most in-demand specialized accountants, because we can no longer do auditing the historical way because everything is electronic, and we have to understand technology and controls, and accountants have absolutely no training in that. So I think there'll be a big push, a big investment, and if you have a CISA credential, you are going to make a lot of money.
And Anton pointed to that. There is a dearth of audit professionals. One accounting environment I spoke to recently had a senior audit position in their firm as a vacancy, open for 18 months. And the less auditors and professionals we have, the more mistakes are going to get made, the more scandals we're going to have. One accounting firm told me recently they'd won a big contract with their business, and if they didn't recruit 3 professionals very, very quickly, they wouldn't be able to deliver on that work. So we are in very acute times. Okay, thank you for that. Eriona, what's your top prediction that's definitely going to happen? Put in your mansion on this one, all or nothing.
AI, obviously we can't not talk about AI. It's going to come. It has already been introduced slightly in our businesses, maybe not in the way that we were expecting, but it's there. But it's going to be a partner to our business. As clients expect things instantaneously, we need to come up with a solution to be able to be available to provide that information. So the way we're using AI, like in our firm at the moment, is saving time after meetings. So within a meeting, it's transcribed, recorded in the background, put into the likes of ChatGPT, which summarizes the meeting, tells us what's next, who's got to do what. And that means that's done in seconds. Whereas before, one, did we even make proper notes? Two, how long did it take someone to remember what we needed to do, send that email to the client, follow up, and so on. And it's being done instantaneously. So, but there are so many other ways that we can start using it, and it's going to be a must. I mean, personally, I'm excited for it, but it's going to happen.
Let's see how fast accountants adopt AI. That's going to be fun, Kelly, isn't it? Anton, what is your one prediction that is definitely going to happen?
And it's really just to follow on what you've said, Rob. The lack, particularly in the US, of accountants is going to become acute. And following that, it's going to have real impacts on impending accounting disasters. I'm saying things like Enron, and we're going to get something big. And also, along with that, you're also going to see a precipitous, and you're seeing it now, fall in DEI across the board in our profession.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's answer a quick question. I'm going to go to closing remarks in a moment. I'm going to be asking you why it's a really exciting time to be in accounting. But just before we do that, let's focus on what the good firms are doing that you speak to. You're in good firms, you're talking to good firms all the time, but what makes them great? So Kelly, let's start with you on this one. You speak to a lot of interesting firms. What do you think separates the good ones from the great?
I would say it's agility and balance. Sounds like an athlete here, but the ability to change quickly on a dime, adopt new processes, iterate if they don't work, fail fast. That agility is key. And then I see balance in the number of clients that they bring on, the internal resources to serve them, the hours that their teams work, the distribution of workload amongst the teams throughout the year. So I would say it's agility and balance.
That's fair enough. Eriona, what have you got? You're a great firm, obviously. So just tell us the stuff you're doing.
Well, we're so great because but I think those who are available for their clients are not hidden behind an email. I think that's what separates the good to great, because you could do a good job, but a great job would be having that time to speak to the client and listen to what their pain points are and then providing a solution. How many firms focus on, let's get these deadlines out, and they don't know that their clients may have a whole list of issues. Probably 50% of them could be solved by the accountant, if not more. So there's a way there of just satisfying and delighting that client way more than just, giving them compliance only.
We launched a body of work recently called 5 Questions for the Accounting World. We asked 110 people the same 5 questions. And Eriona, you were part of that one as well. And one of the questions was, are business owners any closer to receiving proactive advice from their accountants? And the consensus was they're a little bit closer, but as Kelly's shaking her head there, they're not a whole lot closer. Mm-hmm. So there's certainly some strides to be made there, definitely. Anton, what separates the good accountants or the good firms from the great ones in your view?
In my view, and again from my position, I think the good from the great firms are the ones that proactively reach out and make firm pipeline connections into colleges of business and with various universities to make sure that their needs are being met and that they actually develop firm relationships, because many of the things that you've highlighted here, they need to start at the university level. You want accounting software adoption, this can happen. If you want better real world experience for students. Well, let's get internships sorted out. And you would think that would happen more, but certainly in the US context, it really doesn't happen enough. And those firms that really get to grips with that are the firms that manage to get really valuable human capital that will stay with them over time and help them reach their goals.
Interesting times, so many opportunities. I'm just going to throw in a quick question here on upskilling. Some of us are qualified accountants. I'm a former high school math teacher, as you all know now, so I am a part qualified accountant. But just let's look at the accountants themselves. I've just thrown that question into the Zoom chat before we go to closing statements. Eriona, what skills or attributes do you feel, this is just a quick one, accountants need to adopt to stay competitive and relevant?
We need to learn how to listen and how to ask the right questions. Be open to having those conversations, because it's only then that our team and we all will learn so much more, and be able to move along with, as businesses evolve with them.
I wonder how hard that is as a shift to create a curious accountant, because they are so used to having all the answers, being the expert in the room, being asked all of the questions, and they're not particularly well programmed to answer the questions themselves and have that innate curiosity. Sabby, what about you? You talk to a lot of accountants. What one skill attribute do you feel would keep them in the game?
But I think it's, the word that you guys use, prior to here, I used to be in the psychometric assessment space, right? So we used to do a lot around recruitment, and accountancy was one of the industry verticals, right? The two things that I always remember was curiosity and resilience, right? Is just having the ability to ask those open-ended questions, right? That's what curiosity is all about, is how do I learn more? How do I just constantly ask the why question? Because there's a lot of things that going back to, I think Eriona had mentioned this, go beyond the numbers, right? Go beyond just asking or analyzing the data. Understand about the nature of the business. How much more business advisory services can you offer? How much more insights can you get? Because that's the point at which the business owner will then look at it and look at you as their crystal ball in relation to what else can I get out of additional help and services. Because, COVID was a perfect example. How many people knew how the furlough system was going to work? How many times did that change over that entire period? The one person that you could probably count on who would get up to speed a lot quicker than anybody else was the accountant. So, and you already had that relationship. So for me, that's the opportunity. It's that curiosity and having that resilience. I would say two key skills.
Anton, you're on the front line here. You're educating the next generation of accountants. So you've got some skin in the game here. What skills or attributes do you feel we need to be getting into them?
In many ways, I echo the rest of the panel. Being the ability to critique, the ability to take information, be able to critique that information, coupled with the ability to communicate effectively said information. And really, it's the kind of increase in these softer skills that I feel that is really going to be the element that pushes those cutting edge accountants forward. Yeah. And it kind of goes hand in hand with much of what we've been saying about the introduction of AI, the introduction of, various modes of automating processes at the moment, which, an algorithm can do. The question is going to be, what value can you add? Can you communicate that value? And I think that's going to be the piece, I think, that is really going to add to those cutting edge accountants.
I'm fearful what will happen if we give accountants more to do, insofar as their technical skills are unsurpassed. They work really hard for the qualifications, but in many ways, we're asking them to be better presenters now, better leaders, better with their soft skills, better with the presenting skills. And then we ask them to be better at tech and AI and turn them into Python experts and programmers.
So just to jump in, just to kind of add to what you've said there, Rob, what I'm actually suggesting there is a fundamental reorganization of the pedagogy of how we do accounting, right?
Yeah.
If we are going to adopt tech in this manner, then make sure that we do it in a way that the upcoming accountants are thoroughly grounded in. And so we're not giving them more. We're streamlining what they need to be successful in industry as it is today, not as it was.
Yeah,
including the soft skills.
Okay, let's wrap this up. Let's leave our audience with a message of hope. We've definitely righted some wrongs. We've addressed a lot of the issues. We've given as many solutions as we can on what we think should happen. We probably know that accounting is going to survive all manner of adverse conditions. It's recession-proof, probably. Kelly, leave us with a message of hope and why this is an exciting and positive time to be in accounting.
Man, the opportunity to progress quickly in your career is like never before. With the lack of talent coming in means that you are just that much quicker to learn everything, to advance in your career. To me, that is extremely exciting. The thing is that you have to ask for it, right? You have to walk through those doors that are open for you, and you might even have to open that door yourself. You have to put in the work, right? But there are no ceilings in this profession except for the ones that we put up ourselves. Absolutely none. And that's
Anton,
exciting.
for you, why is this a good game to be in, and why is now the time?
Well, I will, just be honest here. I'll tell you what I tell my students. In adversity, there is advantage. And to echo what Kelly said, if you go into accounting right now, particularly in the US, as they're running out, they have to pay more. They have to change some of the fundamentals around this. We're having discussions about the 150-hour requirement and lowering that. We're having discussions about certainly paying new entrants in more. Those who are in, who go in, will find themselves promoted more. If you do a Master's Science of Accounting, you will be one of the few that have those particular skill sets, and will find that the accounting profession is your oyster. So that's actually, for all the kind of worrying things I've said, for those who actually get into the profession right now, it really is your oyster. The profession's adversity is your advantage. So, get on in there.
Yeah. Eriona, you're a wonderful advocate for the accounting profession. You're always passionate about the way you speak about the job that you do and the firm that you run. Why, for you, is this the best time to be in this game?
Oh, it's changed so much. When I look back on when I started and where it is now, so traditionally we were very much backwards looking, what happened in the past, we're reporting on that, and it's kind of worrying. We're not using kind of the tools that we're using weren't very advanced, and we didn't necessarily speak to business owners as much, and didn't get out in the field, didn't get the opportunity to think outside the box in business. But actually now we're forward thinking. We have that opportunity to speak to business owners, and we're learning how each one thinks, taking in all of those skills. Imagine we have access to those entrepreneurs' minds and understanding why they work in a certain way, to then being able to help another client and transferring those skills to different industries and make a difference to our clients' businesses whilst using the latest technology and really being out in the field and being able to imagine what we could do with knowledge that we have. That's not something that we were ever able to do. And now we can, and it's only getting better and better from what I see. So, I think this is probably the most exciting time to be in the position.
Sabby, it's fitting we give the last word to you. Your career has transcended accounting and many other industries, so you can look with perspective at what's happening right now in accounting. What excites you most about being in this game?
Yeah, I think just to summarize almost everything that everybody said, it's the opportunity, right? The opportunity ahead, whether or not, you're the accountant, or whether you're a bookkeeper, or just being as part of an industry that is forever evolving. Technology has not been adopted yet. If you think about, for me, I used to run a small business many years ago. Suppliers came and went, right? My customers, clients came and went. The one relationship that I had back then, and I still have to this very day, is the relationship I had with my accountant, right? They did everything for me. And they also went over and above and beyond, because when I had just general questions, not even about accounting, but it was almost like a sounding board, or somebody who would just provide me some element of insight into anything that was going on in my business, I went to my accountant, and they were able to give me that more so than probably any other individual. and having that long-term relationship. And I think that's the other key for me. It's about relationships, right? And that to me is something that you'll probably never get with other individuals who will know so much about your business, and they could literally make or break your entire organization. So having that dependability and having that relationship, I think, is absolutely key. And who wouldn't want that, right?
Well, that's a great place to finish. The future is bright. The future is in the hands of the accountants and probably the tech people as well. But thank you all so much for your passion, your insights, your candor today. It's been a wonderful debate. We really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us and all the preparation you've done for the questions we've given you today, which haven't been easy. We appreciate it. Thank you.